You like this weather, man. This is what you asked for.
This is not what I asked for.
You're like, man, I love the snow.
Up until Christmas. Once Christmas hits, I don't want to see another drop of snow. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all, you saints and sinners, and y'all... No, I'm going to do that again. Oh, that's going to go in the cut. What's going on, saints and sinners? This is Confessions of a DIY Musician. We are your host, Marina City. I am singer Ryan Argas, and I am joined by my two very best friends, guitarist Todor Brinajiv and drummer Eric Summers-Zarea. This is a podcast that if you are a DIY musician, which means do-it-yourself musician, or just a fan of the band Marina City, you're going to find a lot of fun insights and just a good time in the next 30 minutes of just learning about the behind the scenes things of independent artists or what we do as the band Marina City. And in this episode, we're going to talk about something that we do actually outside of Marina City, our other jobs that we do outside of that. And that is being hired guns for other people and other different things. And because of that, today we just want to say, you are a terrible hired gun. You're an asshole hired gun. Don't be an asshole hired gun.
Hire these guns.
Hire these guns. Hire these guns. Concealed weapon hired gun guys.
Yeah. Grab your popcorn and enjoy the show.
There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode for Confessions of a DIY Musician. We are going to talk about what life is like as a hired gun and the do's and don'ts on that. Do you guys want to start off with the do's or do you want to start off with the don'ts?
The do's. The do's.
The do's. We're going to start off with the positivity. I will start off with, I'm going to actually start off with Todor first. And the reason why I'm going to start off with Todor first is because Eric is a hired gun every single day that he's not sitting down in this podcast basement dungeon. So I'm going to start. So let's give Todor some time to talk a little bit about some opportunities that he feels you should do when you are a hired gun.
Yeah. So I've been a hired gun multiple times in my life before. I've played guitar in a band, and I have also done production and just like production work for other bands also. And artists, I should say. They weren't bands, they were artists. One thing is to do your job and to do your job well. Yeah. So especially if you're getting paid for it, which the hired part that's where that would come from, right? I suppose. It would be to just kind of like, do what is expected of you. For example, when I go to play guitar for a different band, and I understand that this is not like a band that I've started, and rather it's somebody else's project where it is their vision and you are only there to kind of embellish it. You don't really have a say as to, and that's totally fine. Like for example, one of my favorite bands, Megadeth, that's run by Dave Mustaine. That's just how it's always been since the beginning of the band, and that's totally fine. So know your role, play your parts. If you have any creative input, if that's where your spot is, then say it. But if that's not where your spot is, then just kind of keep it to yourself and do your job. So
yeah, I would say actually for me as a hired gun, it is actually going a little bit above what my job is as far as as what I'm gonna do. Like it's like with us when we come down to the basement, like this sounds bad, but we know each other so well that like, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't know it 100%. Maybe I know it 90%, but I can get this done with you guys real quick. We'll just talk it out, whatever. And there's just a little bit more lax. Like when they talk about a band being a marriage, when I'm with my wife or with my parents or whatever, I'm just a lot more relaxed than with strangers, right? So like I just feel like there's just a little bit more leniency on screwing up when I'm with you guys than when it's a hired gun situation. And in that situation, like I want to come in and I want to not be an issue in any way, shape, or form. I want to go in there and like you almost like you forget that I'm in there because you're not focused on me at all. You're focused on whoever everyone else is at the time as much as possible.
Yeah, I think to piggyback on that, it's like when you're in a band situation, you collectively shoulder the stress of everything.
Yeah.
Merch sales, getting to the show on time, learning your parts, rehearsing, all the fine details. It's like a collective stress that you guys all share the burden of. Yeah. But to me, it's like when you're the hired gun, it is now your responsibility to shoulder that stress on your own, or shoulder the stress of what you're hired for on your own, and just like absorb all of it and give none of that stress to the artist, right?
Yeah.
If you show up to the gig and you forgot your drumsticks, don't tell the artist that.
Right.
You know,
you gotta
it's
go
like,
figure it out.
Yeah, you go figure it out on your own. You know, it's like your responsibility is to make them feel super calm, super collect. You know, like they can do their job without having to worry about you. That's the ultimate goal. You do not want to project your stresses onto whoever you're working for.
Now, when I typically do stuff as a hired gun, I'm a restaurant singer, a wedding singer, a hotel singer, and like literally I will get there if my call time is 6 o'clock, I'm getting there at 5:30, 5:15 to set up everything and like know where parking's at. Because the last thing I want is anyone to call me and be like, hey, where you at? Or what's going on? Or like I'm not set up right away. Or and also with setup, like I bring so much to the gigs. I have because sometimes in the gigs that I do, I'll have an iPad that plays tracks. I will bring my own Wi-Fi router. I have my own Wi-Fi router just in case it falls away. I bring my own little speaker. Like it's a small speaker that it's probably if you're watching this on the YouTube, it's about this big, my hands. But it's a small speaker so that in case the speakers at the restaurant, hotel, whatever doesn't work, I got this little guy that I can do right away. I bring everything, the mic, all that stuff, because I do not want to leave anything to chance. And that's honestly what we do with Marina City. Yeah. And that's probably where I got that engraved in my head, is that anytime we go to a show, you know, the sound guy comes up to us and says, all right, so what do you guys need? I'm like, we got it all. Yeah. Don't you worry.
Yeah. And I think a lot of this translates to just being a good bandmate in general, is just like that aspect of being over-prepared, ready for every situation. Yeah. You know, it's like,
it's always better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I play drums, but I always have an extra instrument cable and an extra XLR cable.
You even have extra guitar picks in your pocket.
Yeah, sometimes I'll have extra guitar picks. But yeah, that aspect of like, okay, I have everything that we could possibly need, you know, because at the end of the day, like when you're a hired gun, you hopefully want to get hired again.
Right.
So you know, if you do a good job of like, wow, like if the artist is just like chilling, no stress, they're like, man, I feel like good. I feel safe and secure. Eric's got all his shit.
Yeah.
And more. It's like, then they can worry about, you know, how their merch sales are doing and all the stuff.
I mean, and you're a representative of that band, of that group, of that company, of that day. So I have a real quick story. I've been performing at this one restaurant for about a year now, and it's been on and off, not really consistent, just on and off. I've been performing, and one day I played on a Friday, which is really rare for me, but I played on a Friday and was super packed. This just happened recently. And the district manager of the entire company was there. And he saw me perform, and he absolutely loved the performance. He loved the energy, loved the look, loved the songs I was doing, all these kind of things. He goes to my manager for these kind of gigs, emails him personally and says, I need this guy playing every single week at this place. And then he goes to all the managers of the steakhouse and was like, I love this place. You guys are doing a fantastic job. The music's on point, all these things. So there's 3 lessons that happen here. One is that because of the good job that I did, the people that I was representing also were like, hey, like, I love what you guys are doing to this restaurant. Mm-hmm. And they were really thankful for it. They came to me later. They want me all the time. Second thing is now I got myself, I'm going to be there every Friday residency starting in the new year, that I will be there every Friday or Thursday, which is now consistent work. And the third thing is you never know who's watching, but someone is always watching. And so when you're on stage, and this is kind of getting off a little bit of tangent on stage, but just even when you're a hired gun, sometimes it almost feels like, oh, because I'm a hired gun, I'm not the center of attention. And see, it's difficult for me because I'm always the center of attention. I'm sure it's not. I'm literally sitting in the middle right here of this fucking podcast. But so, you know, but the thing is that I have to know, even when I'm playing in the wedding band and there's 6 singers, that when I'm not singing, there is someone in the crowd who is watching me. And if they think that I look bored, or they think that I'm not doing a great job of representing the group, they will probably, something will be said by that. Or the exact opposite, they really love it. The district managers there is like, love it. Everyone gets praises. And then also now I get a full-time gig or a weekly gig for it. Mm-hmm. So it's like just knowing as a hired gun that not only are you representing yourself, but you're representing everyone that you're hired for. And then on top of that, you are also, someone's always watching you. You don't know who's watching, but someone is always watching.
Yeah. And it's sort of on the same lines of not being the center of attention. This is more of a rehearsal thing. But I think the make or break aspect of whether or not someone's good at being a hired gun is the ability to smile and nod.
Yeah.
That swallow your pride, like for a drummer, if you do, oh man, I really want to do like a crazy fill into this chorus, and they go, hey, could you not?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can absolutely not.
I got some stories about that.
And I think that's the big one is most of the time where people are hard to work with. It's just like, it's the stubbornness of like fighting against what the artist wants or, what the client wants, what the venue wants. It's like, no, you just have to smile and nod and be agreeable, and then people will.
Sometimes the people will come back and say, but you hired me.
Yeah.
So you wanted what I do. And it's like, there is something to be said about that. You did hire Toter Brnijev, so you know what you're going to get with Toter. But also, Toter has a job that you have to do to fit that mold. And there's sometimes we'll play in some of these corporate events where we get someone that comes in with drums who is just like, yo, this is the wrong event to do that for right now. Mm-hmm. And we know that you typically do that, and that's great. But you have to read the room too. We're playing a wedding right now, right? Or a ceremony right now.
And it'll vary from artist to artist. Like sometimes artists will want you to like, all right, I hired Toter because I want him to just do that. Rip it. Yeah. But other times they hire Toter because he's a good guitar player and he's good looking, and they just want.
They need you to stand over there and look good. Man.
Yeah, you just play some power chords and you call it a day.
Yeah.
So it is important to like know what an artist is after. Like cover bands, it's a huge thing of like, do you play it note for note or do you put your own spin on it? Mm-hmm. How much of your own spin do you put on it?
And you got to ask that.
Yeah.
When you become a hired gun, ask for what you're looking for.
Yes.
And there are times with me where, like, especially in the wedding bands, how many times I get asked to do songs where I'm like, are you freaking... Like one wedding, I'm doing Seek and Destroy, Metallica. In that same wedding, I'm doing My Way, Elvis Presley. The wedding before, I'm doing Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, Toby Keith. And like all these like... And there's some stuff in there. I'm like, dude, I don't like, but I have to know those songs. I have to come in and be versatile.
That's that smile and nod again, right?
Yeah, I'm like right, cool.
Dude, you have to play Purple People Eater,
Yeah.
And it's like,
okay, you want Purple People
Eater. Dude,
Eater.
I would love to play that song.
And honestly, this is probably the reason why I can't ever just give up Marina City. Like where there's thoughts about me going like, you make money being a cover artist, just do that. And it's like, yeah, but that's also a job. Like as much as I love doing it and I like making the money that I make from it, it is a job. And Marina City, no matter how much time and effort I put in this, does not feel like a job. It's something that I want to do on my off days. So with that being said, if you're a hired gun, maybe it's good that you do have some kind of project of your own if you feel like you need to like really give some creative input that they're not taking.
Yeah, you have to like to be told what to do.
Yeah. It's a different game. We'll take a break here and then we'll get into the don'ts. Since I feel like we did don'ts, but do you guys have any do's before we take it?
I don't think so.
No.
Always be prepared, over-prepared.
Over-prepared.
Know that you may have to do someone else's job, so you may need to know what that is.
Yes.
Smile and nod as much as possible. Maybe have another gig. Stay in your lane. Yeah. Have and ask what is needed of you so that they know. Transparency of what you were supposed to do. Always show up early. I tend to be one of the last people that leave too, just because I'm always, picking things up. That's what we do with this band too. We're usually the first one to arrive and the last one to leave.
Yep.
Because we want people to remember us and have those connections. That's something that you want to do with hired gun. You never know who's watching, but someone is always watching. You may not be the center of attention, but you always got to make sure that you're on stage and on performing. You always have to be performing no matter what. All right, those are the do's. All right, so today's sponsor is MarinaCityBand.com. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard correctly. We have the greatest website in the world, MarinaCityBand.com, where you can do a bunch of cool different things. Like one, join the Crush. The Crush is our fan club. It is our section. It is the people that really make this band go round is the Crush. Now you go sign up for that. We're going to send a holiday card to you. You'll get some cool discounts. You'll always know what's going on in Marina City world before anyone else. You go check out our Discord, which is still on MarinaCityBand.com, and it's a whole community of people all across the world that you can talk to and have a really good time and really create awesome relationships. I mean, there's a story about the two photographers that became really close friends and now taking over the world with photography because they met on the Discord. There's a really cool amount of people on that, and definitely go check that out. Of course, I would be remiss to not tell you about shop.marinacityband.com. Right there on marinacityband.com. It's a lot of cool things on there. The jackets, the mugs, the belt bags, the sweaters, the t-shirts, you name it. We got something cool. Treat yourself. Get yourself something nice. You deserve it at marinacityband.com. And then lastly, I do want to talk about the simulation. That simulation on there, when you click that button, it is a world where you can try to collect all 7 badges and a bunch of cool things that we are doing with the scavenger hunt across the world. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our sponsor. Thank you guys for tuning back in after our commercial break.
We're back. We're back.
Shit.
Why am I out of breath?
Lost in the sauce.
Lost in the sauce. Okay, don'ts. What are the things that you should not do as a hired gun? And sometimes you would believe that this is obvious, but the only reason why we decided to make this podcast, and the only reason why we're bringing this up, is because these are real life stories that we have encountered that we felt it is very, very imperative that we make sure that we tell people who are just starting as hired guns or DIY musicians to not do, because apparently it's not as obvious as you would think.
Yeah. I'd say just have an overall good attitude, especially
Don't
if you're a
be
hired
a
gun.
dick.
Exactly. Don't be a dick. DBD. Don't be a dick. DVD. There it is.
D-bad.
I
Don't
don't
be
know.
a dick.
Oh yeah, D-bad. There you go.
D-bad.
D-bad.
Yeah, just, get along with, especially if you haven't met any of the people who you're working with. If it's, you just got to get along with them. If you make a mistake, like, look at it this way. If you're a nice person who's made a mistake, that's, to me, in my eyes, that's like a little bit more forgivable than somebody who is making a mistake with a bad attitude and is just like stubborn about it. If you got 4 bars of a guitar solo in your song, play 4 bars of a guitar solo in your song. Don't go off into like an 8-bar fucking Eddie Van Halen solo, right?
Yeah.
So, I think attitude will go a long way.
This is one of my favorite little tips that someone pointed out. He was talking about being an MD or music director. So when you're the music director, you're like in charge of how rehearsals run. You're in charge of kind of like running the show, putting the instrumentalists all together, whatever. Yeah. And he was like, you don't want to make people feel bad in rehearsal, right? So you don't want to call anybody out directly. So he would ask questions framed at himself that would help whoever was struggling. So like if the guitar players say like playing a guitar solo that's too long, we'd finish that section and be like, I'm confused. How long is the guitar solo going?
Yeah.
I feel like
super indirect.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it doesn't isolate, it's just as an example, like that's just to kind of like ease into the conversation about like getting everybody on the same page without singling someone out and be like, dude, what were you doing during that guitar solo? Totally different vibe.
Yeah, I actually just talk a little bit on that. My day job, I sell merch to artists and work with their touring and stuff like that. And oftentimes there are people who we have to make decisions at work that would fire a client or whatever the case is. And I always want to make sure that like I never say you did this or you like you're leaving because you're not selling enough. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, we had to make we're restructuring the company and we realized that we have to make decisions on our own, on thresholds, on how much we can help a band if they're not hitting a certain threshold. Unfortunately, we noticed that we haven't hit that certain threshold in the store. Because of that, we're just not in the right fit at this moment. And we feel that it would be better served if we're able to hand this back to you or something like that.
Right.
And never saying you did this, you did that. And I try to do that honestly with my wife.
Yeah.
Try to do that with, I hope to do that with you guys as much as possible. Like, I never want to say you, or, you know, I'm like, hey, this is we, or I, like, hey, we, or what's going on here, because people get so, whoa.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this is sort of like the opposite end of the smiling and nodding thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, it is helpful to have that ability, but you also have to respect the fact that people have that ability to a certain extent, right? You don't want to be like, hey man, you totally fucking biff that fill going into the chorus, and then also you were dragging the bridge, and you know, and then it's like you're piling on these mistakes on someone, and even the person with the best attitude is going to feel a little bit down, whether they, you know, handle that internally or externally. Doesn't even matter.
I'm feeling like we may be dragging it at this part. Let's get over it and let's see how we can fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If it's more of a collective effort and sort of framing it as sharing the blame, then everyone is more invested in helping the problem get fixed, rather than being like, oh, I just got called out.
That way
like
no one
10
feels singled
times.
out.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
collective issue.
Let's use the next, while we talk about don'ts, horror stories of hired guns that we've seen, and maybe not to do ever.
Horror stories. Oh man, I think. I mean, I've got a few.
I had a guy arrested outside the wedding.
All right, that's as bad as it gets.
Yeah, a guy got arrested. So I'll start there. So that
there's like professionalism bad, and then there's also just human level bad.
Got. I would say that make sure that you are, make sure that your license is 100% up to code.
If you don't know this, you have to have a license to perform music in 50 of 50.
I mean driver's license, and also make sure if you don't have a concealed gun permit, that you don't have a gun in the car with you in an expired driver's license when you're going to a gig.
Follow the law.
So I would say those are don'ts. That was a pretty dramatic situation.
Jeez, that's intense. No. All right, yeah. Well, I can't top that one.
Yeah, well, it just made me feel not as bad. So you can.
I think one thing is like a good do that's followed by a don't is like, do help everybody. Like, I think we talked about this in being like a good bandmate, is helping carry everybody's equipment. Do the same thing when you're a hired gun, right? If the drummer has 1,000 things and you only have to bring in your microphone, help the drummer, I'm not singling anybody out.
I was hoping the drummer would help the vocalist carry the microphone.
Two-man job. If you're a drummer and you're already loaded in, help the singer carry his microphone.
I don't understand why I'm carrying my own microphone.
Yeah, exactly. Know about singers' fragile egos and carry their microphone. But I mean, I've been in situations too where it's like people are not helping move any equipment. Like, I've had to move other people's hired gun equipment, which is a little wild. It's like, all right, wait, why am I the only person moving everybody's stuff? That's a little wild.
Now you're just their little bitch.
Exactly.
And it's not even the person that.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just like sweating. And you're just like moving all these cases.
Yeah, it's like one thing. It's like, I'll go above and beyond for the client. Specifically, I will be like, does the client need anything? I'll carry all your guitar amps. Like, let's go. But then if there's like another hired gun on the gig and then I'm moving their equipment, then it's like, okay, all right.
Yeah, what is
like,
that?
I'll still do it, and I'll do it. I'll do it happily. Again, smile and nod. Don't project that stress onto the client. But yeah, I mean, like, just help out, right? Be aware of good bandmate etiquette, even though you're not in the band.
Check out our other podcast episode.
Talk about practice
for sure.
What you should practice before rehearsal.
Yeah.
And then I would say, making load in and not leaving load in and doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we like
showing up on time.
showing on time. Yeah,
I've actually been the hired gun and then also the only person to show up on time.
Yeah.
This
That's
is
been often.
100% a true story where I was the hired gun, the only person in the band who is the hired gun on a gig. And I was not only there on time, but I was on stage waiting for everybody else for sound check, and they were not even at the venue yet. And I had the venue staff be like, where's the rest of your band? And I'm just like, I cannot stress this enough. This is not my band. Know that me is a separate entity from whatever this band is doing.
yeah. I mean, that's also why you get there early, so that like you could tell the venue that, right?
Yeah.
If you were running late, like maybe
Totally.
the venue's like, I don't want to work with this guy ever again.
Right. And that kind of goes hand in hand with you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
Like I hope that, the other bands that were on the bill and the venue staff is like, oh, well, that guy's not even in the band and he's here on time and he's set up and he's just waiting for these unprofessional people to show
What'd
up.
you do when they walked in? You were just like waving from your drums on stage. You're just like, hello, guys.
Yeah. But that's again like a smile and nod moment where like in a different situation, I'd be like, guys, where the hell were you guys? Why are you leaving me hanging like this? But,
Hi.
it's like, hey,
So good to see
I'm
you
so
guys.
glad you guys are here. You guys
Yeah.
ready for a good show?
Yeah.
The sound guy's definitely not mad at us at
Right.
all. Here we go. And I'm helping them bring their stuff in.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that for the most part, I just being a decent human also goes a really long way. And,
Yeah.
but know what your gig is, and like there are times where we'll have substitutes. There's been a few times in the wedding band that we'll have a substitute sing for someone, and that substitute sees that maybe I'm going kind of crazy on stage, or the other one's going crazy, so they want to match that energy, but they don't know the song that well. Mm-hmm. And in the wedding band, there's oftentimes you can read the lyrics off the sheet. I mean, they want you to still put on a good show, but like if you're looking at the lyrics and you look out and you just
Right.
perform,
It takes away from
but
it.
there's been multiple times where that singer doesn't know the song, so they'll just like sing like a very common song, and then they'll look around and look for everyone else to see like what the lyrics are. So I have had to sing the rest of that song so that they can figure out where they're at and get back to it.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing is about being a good musician on my end, is like knowing whatever else's parts are. So
Totally.
remember when Eric wasn't at a gig and we had Dean play drums for us, like we could help Dean be like, no, this
For
is
sure.
like
Yeah, yeah.
knowing what Eric would
Like
do.
always communicate
Yeah.
with him,
Yeah, yeah.
whether
And so
it's
that-
with eye contact
Exactly.
or something.
But also we knew Eric's parts well enough.
Yeah.
So we can go, like, I remember
Right.
you going like the drum fill, like here, like hit
I
here,
remember,
like,
oh my God, poor Dean. I told him to go into halftime a little bit earlier than what the actual
Yeah.
part of the song was actually coming into. So this guy is just like doing halftime for like 4 bars, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. It's
By the
my
way,
fault.
this is
It's not your
Toder's
Dean.
fault, not Dean's fault.
No,
Dean's the best.
100% Dean or Toder's fault, not
100%
Dean's
Dean's
fault.
fault. No,
Yeah, if you need to
Toder's
hire a drummer,
fault.
hire Dean.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
hire me
Dean-
too, but also
yeah,
Dean.
yeah, if Eric's not available, Dean. No, he's great. But all that I was trying to say before it shit came off worse was that we knew Eric's parts because we've been doing it long enough that we can help that hired gun. So
Yeah.
if you're listening, you need to hire someone, like know the other person. It's good to know everyone's parts or enough. Like I couldn't play Eric's parts, but I could go, hey, this is when he does something. But on the opposite side of things, like that person shouldn't have relied on me to be like, now what? I'm like,
Yeah,
what do
yeah,
you mean
right.
now what?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
like, bro,
That's
like,
bad.
Right.
Yeah.
I will
Serious.
say like one last really important thing that we totally have forgotten to talk about is get the logistics squared away before the gig.
Yeah.
Figure out,
Right.
what the pay situation is,
Yes.
what time you need to be there, how many rehearsals, right? Like agree to all that stuff beforehand. So after the gig, you're like, man, I didn't make enough money. You
Right,
don't
right.
want to then contact the artist after the gig and be like, could I have like an extra $100.
Right. You want to get the
doesn't-
money situation settled.
Yeah. Because
Always.
that's
That's
always
gotta
a
be
really
on the same
awkward
page.
conversation. Like there's
Yeah.
no sugarcoating it. It's an uncomfortable thing to talk
Always
about.
will be.
So if you get it squared away early and everyone knows what the expectations are, you know, maybe you're getting shortchanged and maybe you justifiably are like, I'm going to kind of half-ass it. I mean,
Right.
don't actually do that, but but at least you know that beforehand before you spent like 18 hours, you know, building like a tracks rig and $1,400 buying a new drum kit for a gig, and then they're only going to give you $20.
And if you are hiring someone, the opposite side of it, it's like, hey, figure out what you need them to do. Hey guys, like when I had to hire everyone for my solo gig, I was like, this is what I'm expecting you.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to pay for that. Are we
Right.
good? We're all there. And I'm not going to ask you anything more of that. If I am going to ask you more of that, then I'm going to be prepared myself to be like,
Right.
hey, I'm going to give you guys something a little bit
Yeah,
extra here.
I think that
because
would be an
prepared that.
interesting thing that we could cover in a future episode is
Hiring
just
someone.
hiring somebody, whether it's a musician or whether it's a graphic designer
Yeah.
or photographer or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But for this episode, we are coming to our 30-minute mark. So we just want to thank you so much for watching or listening to Confessions of a DIY Musician.
episode.
We are your host, Marina City. I'm Ryan Argast. I'm joined by Todor Brenijev and Eric Summers-Araya. Make sure you go listen to our music on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you can get your music. Everything at Marina City or everything at Marina City Band from it. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We will see you next week. Make sure to subscribe and email us if you have some options and ideas of some topics that we should talk about. Email us at thecrush@marinacityband.com for any ideas that you guys are thinking of. And if you want to book us for your shows, for your colleges, for anything like that, management@marinacityband.com. Thank you guys so much. This has been another episode of Confessions of a
Well, outta
DIY
here.
Musician.
Peace.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.